So you have the deluxe album coming out December 10th, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you have 2 remixes, 4 orchestral versions, which are dope, by the way. I was listening to them this afternoon.
Oh, thanks.
Noel sent me the deluxe album, and you worked with composer Max
Max
Arouge.
Arouge.
Am I
Mm-hmm.
pronouncing it? Max
Yeah,
Arouge.
Arouge. Mm-hmm.
Could you talk about that creative process, making the orchestral version as opposed to something that would be a more traditional release, and how
Yeah,
that kind of come together in COVID?
yeah. So a lot of what we did, um, we first got put together through my creative director Jordan, um, to do some live orchestral stuff for Coachella last year. That was kind of how we first got started, and we began doing like an orchestral edit of "Tie Me Down," and we did an orchestral edit of "Nobody Compares to You." And that was sort of the beginning of our partnership of working together, and it worked out really well. Like on a friendship level, I vibe with him, and on a creative musical level, we saw things similarly, but came from totally different backgrounds. He's very traditional orchestral type stuff, and I'm more like contemporary pop music and whatnot. But it worked really well, like our different backgrounds. And so after the Coachella success, and as I was finishing up the Gravity album, basically decided to try and maybe re-envision some of it and further build upon what we did at Coachella and do like full orchestral arrangements on some of these Gravity records. And it was a really cool process going back and forth. It's definitely one of the more challenging projects I've done in a while. But I'm super happy with how they came together. We went through so many versions of different tracks, but the final product of these 4 records, I'm really, really proud of on a personal level.
Yeah, it's cool to hear the different kind of buildups and the instruments all coming together, like horns, drums, like things that you don't typically hear from a normal, I guess, for lack of a better word, Coachella set or Lollapalooza set or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, it's cool to hear that dynamic go together, and I imagine it's a different headspace from what you're normally in when you're producing a track that's a non-orchestral version.
Right. Yeah. Especially when I'm doing the more pop leaning tracks, and even the dancier ones. There's like there's definitely some like structural elements to like the composition. Like there's always a verse, intro, a verse, a hook, and and then a build with like a drop, and you kind of have that like flow to those records. Whereas orchestral, it's kind of like blank canvas. Where do you want to take this? And it was really challenging to actually. It was challenging, but also really cool to have that sort of complete freedom. And Max's knowledge of classical music and his runs and chord progression turns and changes were like so inspiring. Like sometimes he would do shit where I was just like, whoa, like how did you even like go there in your head? That's so crazy sounding. Like we have to do this. Like we have to put this in the track. And his background with my contemporary, like we just pulled each other into each one's worlds in like a really healthy and cool way, where you can feel both of our influences on these pieces of work for sure.